James Caldwell sat at his polished mahogany desk in the corner office of Horizon Hospitality's headquarters in New York, the city's skyline a glittering backdrop through the floor-to-ceiling windows. At 58, with streaks of silver threading through his neatly trimmed hair, James had built Horizon from a single boutique hotel in Seattle into a chain of 20 properties across the U.S., each one a promise of warmth, respect, and impeccable service. That promise, however, was fraying. Piled before him was a stack of customer complaints, printed emails, handwritten letters, and screenshots of scathing reviews flooding platforms like Google and X. Worse, a TikTok video with over 200,000 views had gone viral, showing a front desk clerk at his Seattle location smirking at a family in worn clothes as they checked in. The caption read, "Horizon Hospitality? More like Horizon Hostility. #boycott Horizon." James rubbed his temples, the weight of the accusations pressing against him. The complaints weren't about minor issues like slow Wi-Fi or lumpy pillows. Guests described being ignored, mocked, or treated as if they didn't belong. One review on X stood out. "I felt judged the moment I walked in. The staff acted like I was trespassing because I didn't look rich enough for their fancy hotel." Another, from a tech executive attending a conference in Seattle, complained about a lack of personalized service. "No USB-C chargers in the room. No memory of my coffee preference from last time." Horizon's lost its touch. These weren't isolated incidents. They pointed to a deeper rot, and it was happening at the Seattle property. Once the crown jewel of his chain. Seattle was gearing up for TechTrend 2025, a massive conference expected to draw thousands of innovators, investors, and media. Horizon's flagship hotel there was booked solid, with VIPs demanding flawless experiences. A single misstep could amplify the negative buzz, especially on platforms like X, where one bad review could spiral into a PR nightmare. James had sent his district manager to investigate, but the report was a vague, two-page document claiming minor staffing issues and satisfactory operations. Satisfactory wasn't good enough, not for Horizon, not for James. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the framed photo on his desk, a snapshot from the Seattle hotel's opening 15 years ago. He stood in front of the gleaming glass doors, grinning alongside his first employees, all of them buzzing with pride. That hotel had been built on a simple idea. Every guest, no matter their background, deserved to feel valued. Somewhere along the way, that vision had slipped. James wasn't just a CEO who signed off on budgets. He was the architect of a culture, and that culture was failing. He couldn't fix it from behind a desk, relying on reports that whitewashed the truth. He needed to see it for himself. The idea came to him like a spark in the dark. Go undercover. If the problem was at the ground level, he'd meet it there, not as James Caldwell, CEO, but as an ordinary guest. It was risky. Employees might recognize him, despite the corporate structure keeping most staff distant from the C-suite. Still, he hadn't visited the Seattle property in person in years, and his face wasn't plastered on company brochures. With the right preparation, he could blend in. James called his trusted executive assistant, Clara Nguyen, into the office. Clara, sharp and discreet, had been with Horizon for a decade. "I need you to set up a fake profile for me," he said, his voice low but firm. "Book a room at the Seattle hotel under the name Thomas Reed. Make me look like a middle-class traveler, nothing flashy. And don't tell anyone, not even the board." Clara raised an eyebrow but didn't question him. "You're going full on. Undercover boss, aren't you?" she said, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "Something like that," James replied. "But this isn't a game. I need to know what's broken." Over the next 2 days, Clara worked her magic. She created a booking through Horizon's mobile app, ensuring Thomas Reed had a believable backstory. A 55-year-old consultant from Portland, traveling for a small business conference. She even mocked up a LinkedIn profile and a credit card under the alias, linked to a secure account. James, meanwhile, prepared his disguise. He let his beard grow out, trading his tailored suits for a slightly wrinkled jacket from a thrift store and a faded Mariners baseball cap. He swapped his usual contact lenses for a pair that subtly changed his eye color from hazel to brown, a trick he'd read about in a tech blog covering privacy tools. Looking in the mirror, he barely recognized himself, a weary traveler, not a CEO. On the flight to Seattle, James scrolled through X on his phone, searching for more posts about Horizon. The TikTok video had sparked a thread of comments, some defending the hotel, but most piling on with similar stories of dismissive staff or outdated amenities. One user wrote, "Horizon's Seattle location is stuck in 2015. No eco-friendly options. No smart room controls. I'd rather stay at an Airbnb." Another mentioned the lack of inclusivity training, hinting at staff bias against guests of certain backgrounds. James's jaw tightened. He'd implemented diversity training years ago, but clearly it wasn't being enforced. As the plane descended into Seattle, the city's skyline came into view, the Space Needle piercing the clouds. James felt a mix of anticipation and dread. This wasn't just about fixing one hotel. It was about reclaiming the soul of Horizon. He checked into a modest hotel under his real name for the first night, finalizing his plan. Tomorrow, he'd walk into his own hotel as Thomas Reed, a nobody with a reservation, and see what his guests saw. He'd observe the staff, the service, the culture, everything. If the problem was as bad as the review suggested, he'd root it out, no matter what it took. The next morning, James stood across the street from the Horizon Seattle, his heart thudding with a mix of nerves and resolve. The building was still striking, its gloss facade catching the morning light, but small details betrayed neglect. A smudged entrance door, a wilted plant by the valet stand. He adjusted his cap, pulling it low over his eyes, and slung a worn duffel bag over his shoulder. His phone buzzed with a notification from the Horizon app, confirming his check-in as Thomas Reed. He took a deep breath, the weight of his mission settling in. This wasn't just about saving a hotel. It was about proving that Horizon still stood for something. As he crossed the street, a family of 4 approached the entrance. A mother, father, and 2 young kids, their clothes practical but worn, their faces lit with the excitement of a rare vacation. James slowed his pace, watching as they pushed through the glass doors. A faint laugh from inside stopped him cold. It came from the front desk, where a young woman in a crisp Horizon uniform stood, her eyes flicking over the family with a smirk. Her name tag read Ashley Turner. James's blood simmered. He hadn't even stepped inside, and already he sensed the problem. Whatever was rotting in his hotel, he was about to uncover it, piece by piece. James Caldwell, disguised as Thomas Reed, pushed through the glass doors of the Horizon Seattle, his baseball cap casting a shadow over his eyes. The lobby was as grand as he remembered: marble floors, a chandelier catching the late morning light, but the details told a different story. A faint smudge marred the glass door, and the air held a stale edge, as if the vents hadn't been cleaned in months. His duffel bag bumped against his hip as he scanned the room, his CEO instincts cataloging every flaw. At the front desk, Ashley Turner, the young woman who'd laughed at the family moments ago, stood scrolling through her phone, her sleek Horizon uniform crisp but her posture lax. Nearby, a bellboy no older than 20, with a name tag reading Noah Bennett, lingered, glancing nervously at Ashley. The family James had seen outside approached the desk: a mother, father, and 2 kids, their clothes practical but worn, their faces a mix of excitement and trepidation. The father, a wiry man with calloused hands, cleared his throat. "Hi, we have a reservation under the name Johnson," he said, his voice steady but cautious. Ashley barely looked up, her fingers still tapping her phone. Are you sure? She asked, her tone dripping with skepticism, as if the Johnsons had wandered into the wrong building. She flicked her eyes over their scuffed shoes and faded jackets, her lips curling into a faint smirk. The mother shifted, clutching her daughter's hand. Yes, I booked it online, she said, her voice quieter now. Through your app. Ashley sighed, setting her phone down with exaggerated reluctance. She typed lazily into the computer, her nails clicking against the keys. Uh-huh. Well, you should know we require a credit card for incidentals. Her eyes lingered on the father's worn wallet as he pulled it out, her expression almost amused. We have one, the father said, sliding a card across the counter. Ashley took it, holding it between two fingers as if it might be contaminated. Just making sure, she said lightly. You know, for damages. James's jaw clenched, his fingers tightening around the strap of his bag. He'd seen enough in 5 minutes to confirm the complaints flooding his inbox. Ashley's behavior wasn't just unprofessional. It was a deliberate power play, a gatekeeper's. Disdain for those she deemed unworthy. He glanced at Noah, who stood frozen, his eyes darting between Ashley and the family. Noah's hesitation spoke volumes. He knew this was wrong, but didn't dare intervene. James stepped forward, forcing his voice to stay casual. Excuse me, I'd like to check in too, he said. Placing his duffel on the floor, Ashley barely glanced at him, her eyes skimming his wrinkled jacket and cap. Name? She asked, already turning back to her screen. Thomas Reed, James said, using his alias. She tapped her keyboard, then slid a form toward him. Sign here. No welcome, no eye contact, just pure indifference. She handed him a key card and turned back to the Johnsons, who were still waiting, the little girl now clinging to her mother's leg. James signed the form slowly, his eyes on the family. First time staying here? He asked them, keeping his tone warm. The father nodded, a faint smile breaking through his discomfort. Yeah, we saved up for this. It's a big trip for us. Ashley snorted softly, but when James looked at her, she was already pretending to focus on her computer. The mother's cheeks flushed, and the father's smile faded. James exhaled, his anger simmering. He wanted to confront Ashley right then, but blowing his cover now would only scratch the surface. This wasn't about one rude employee. It was about a culture that allowed her to act this way in plain sight. Hope you enjoy your stay, James said to the family, his voice genuine. He took his key card and headed toward the elevators, his mind racing. The TikTok video that had gone viral, likely of Ashley or someone like her, suddenly made sense. Guests didn't just feel unwelcome. They were openly mocked. As the elevator doors closed, he pulled out his phone and opened the Horizon app, scanning recent reviews. One caught his eye. No eco-friendly options. Plastic water bottles everywhere. Staff acted like I was a nuisance for asking about recycling. Another mentioned the lack of smart room features, like voice-activated lights or USB-C chargers. Critical for tech-savvy guests attending Tech Trend 2025. In his room on the 5th floor, James set his bag down and surveyed the space. It was clean, but the details betrayed neglect. Faint stains on the carpet near the bed, a smudged mirror in the bathroom, a single-use plastic water bottle on the desk. He ran a hand through his beard, frustration mounting. These weren't the standards he'd set when he opened this hotel. He opened the app again, noting a notification about the Tech Trend conference, where Horizon was a preferred hotel. A VIP guest had left a comment. No personalized service, no memory of my preferences. Horizon's falling behind. The words stung. His hotel was failing not just in hospitality, but in the modern expectations of customization and sustainability. James left the room, determined to see more. He headed toward the staff areas, his sneakers silent on the carpeted hallway. Near a housekeeping cart, he spotted a young woman kneeling on the floor, scrubbing a stubborn stain with a frayed cloth. Her uniform was slightly wrinkled, her dark hair escaping its bun, her face damp with sweat. Her name tag read Sofia Alvarez. "You okay?" James asked, stopping beside her. Sophia looked up, startled, then quickly straightened. "Oh, yeah. Just trying to get this stain out. Been here for weeks." Her voice was polite but weary. James crouched, inspecting the spot. Shouldn't they have replaced this section by now? Sophia let out a quiet laugh, bitter and humorless. "They don't care. As long as it looks decent enough, it stays." James studied her, noting the exhaustion in her eyes. "What's your name?" "Sophia," she said, brushing a stray hair from her forehead. "You a guest?" "Yeah, just checking in," James said. "You been here long?" 2 years, Sophia replied, her voice low. "Long enough to know how things really work." James leaned against the wall, keeping his tone casual. "And how do things really work?" Sophia hesitated, glancing down the hall to ensure they were alone. "They push us to clean rooms fast, but we don't have enough time or staff. If we complain, they say we're making excuses. And if a guest notices something we missed, we get written up." "Who's they?" James asked, though he already suspected the answer. "The managers, mostly Mr. Mitchell," Sophia said, her voice tightening. "Brian Mitchell. He runs this place like it's his personal kingdom. And Ashley at the front desk, she's the worst. If she doesn't like how someone looks, she treats them like garbage. Guests have complained, but nothing happens." James's suspicion solidified. This wasn't just Ashley's attitude. It was a systemic failure, enabled by leadership. "Does Mitchell know about Ashley?" he asked. Sophia snorted. "He knows. He doesn't care. She's his favorite always. Gets the best shifts. If you cross her, you're on her bad side, and she makes your life miserable." Before James could ask more, a sharp voice cut through the hallway. "Sophia, stop chatting and finish your rooms." A man in his late 40s stood at the far end of the corridor, his suit neatly pressed, a clipboard in hand. His name tag confirmed it, Brian Mitchell. His expression was one of impatience, his eyes narrowing at Sophia. Double quotes. "Yes, Mr. Mitchell," Sophia said quickly, grabbing her cleaning supplies and hurrying into the next room. James watched her go, then turned to Mitchell, who gave him a dismissive glance. "You a guest?" Mitchell asked, his tone clipped. "Just checking in," James said, keeping his voice neutral. Mitchell barely nodded before striding off, barking orders at another employee down the hall. James exhaled slowly, his mind piecing together the puzzle. Ashley's behavior at the front desk wasn't an anomaly. It was a symptom of a deeper rot, fostered by Mitchell's indifference. Sophia's words echoed in his head. He runs this place like it's his personal kingdom. If that was true, the culture of this hotel was broken from the top down. James returned to the lobby, pausing near a digital kiosk meant for self-check-in, a feature Horizon had rolled out to compete with modern chains. The screen was frozen, a small sign taped to it. "Out of service." He shook his head. Even the technology was failing. On his phone, X buzzed with a new post about Horizon Seattle. "Staff ignored my request for a vegan breakfast. Manager said, deal with it. Never staying here again." The user tag Tech Trend 2025, amplifying the complaint to thousands. James's resolve hardened. He'd seen enough for one day, but this was only the beginning. Tomorrow he'd dig deeper into the staff, the service, and the leadership that had let his hotel fall so far. James Caldwell, still cloaked in his Thomas Reed disguise, woke early on his second day at the Horizon Seattle, the faint hum of the city filtering through his room's window. The bed was comfortable, but the details nagged at him. A flickering desk lamp, a plastic water bottle mocking his company's eco-friendly promises, a thermostat that didn't sync with the Horizon app's smart controls. He dressed in the same thrift store jacket and mariner's cap, his beard itching slightly, and checked X on his phone. A new post about the hotel had surfaced overnight. Horizon Seattle's breakfast is a joke. Empty trays, rude staff. Avoid if you're at #tech trend 225. Double quotes. The post had 300 likes and a reply from a verified tech trend attendee. Same. No vegan options, and the manager shrugged when I complained. James's stomach tightened. The conference was amplifying every misstep, and his hotel was unraveling in real time. He headed to the dining area, where breakfast service was included for guests, a chance to observe staff and customer interactions during a busy morning. The room buzzed with conference attendees in sleek blazers, their laptops open, and a few families navigating the buffet. Near the food station, an older couple stood, looking perplexed. The man pointed at empty trays where scrambled eggs and bacon should have been, while his wife scanned the room for help. A worker in a Horizon apron, her name tag read Emma Collins, wiped down a counter in a sluggish pace, her eyes fixed on her task, oblivious to the couple's confusion. James approached them, keeping his tone friendly. "Everything okay?" The woman sighed, her silver hair catching the light. "We're just wondering if they'll bring out more food. There's barely anything left." James glanced at Emma, who hadn't looked up. "Excuse me," he called, raising his voice slightly. "Do you know when they'll restock the food?" Emma paused, her rag still in hand, and shrugged. "Whenever the kitchen gets to it," she said, her voice flat. She resumed wiping, her posture radiating disinterest. James studied her slumped shoulders, eyes unfocused. There was no urgency, no sense of service. The couple exchanged a frustrated look, then wandered back to their table with half-empty plates. James's frustration grew, but he held back. He needed to see the full picture before acting. "Is there someone in charge here?" he asked Emma. She shrugged again. "Manager's in the back." James nodded politely and headed toward the kitchen, his sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. He pushed through the swinging door, the clatter of pans and the scent of burnt toast hitting him immediately. Inside, two cooks, a young man with tired eyes and an older woman, rushed to prep more food, their movements frantic. Across the room, a man in a pressed suit stood with his arms crossed, watching without lifting a finger. James recognized him instantly. Brian Mitchell, the manager Sophia had described as running the hotel like his personal kingdom. The young cook glanced up, sweat beading on his forehead. "Sir, we're doing our best," he said to Mitchell. "We ran out faster than expected." Mitchell shook his head, his voice sharp. "That's not my problem. You should have planned better." James stepped forward, his disguise keeping his authority hidden. "Sounds like they could use some extra hands," he said, his tone even but pointed. Mitchell turned, his eyes narrowing. "Who are you?" "Just a guest," James said, meeting his gaze. "One who noticed breakfast services falling behind." Mitchell's expression flickered with irritation. "We're handling it," he snapped, turning back to the cooks. James glanced at the two workers, their faces tight with stress as they scrambled to meet demand. Mitchell, meanwhile, offered no support, just criticism. "I'm sure you are," James said, his voice calm but firm. "But maybe handling it means stepping in when your team needs help." Mitchell scoffed, his clipboard tapping against his thigh. "That's not how this works. They have a job to do. If they can't keep up, that's on them." James held his gaze for a moment, then nodded slowly. This wasn't just laziness. It was a complete absence of leadership. Mitchell wasn't solving problems. He was creating them. James left the kitchen without another word, his mind racing. The issues weren't limited to Ashley's rudeness or Sophia's overwork. They stemmed from a manager who fostered neglect and blame. Back in the lobby, James lingered near the front desk, where Ashley was stationed again, her demeanor unchanged. A man in a tailored suit, a tech trend badge pinned to his lapel, approached, asking about a late checkout. Ashley barely glanced at him, her response curt, "We don't do that during conferences." The man frowned, muttering about posting his experience online. Next, a woman with a stroller asked about crib availability for her infant. Ashley sighed audibly, her tone impatient. "I'll check, but we might not have any." The woman shifted uncomfortably, her baby fussing. James had seen enough. Ashley's behavior wasn't a one-off. It was a pattern, enabled by Mitchell's indifference. He stepped forward, placing his key card on the counter. Ashley looked up, her eyes skimming his wrinkled jacket. "Checking out?" she asked, her voice flat. "Yes," James said, "and I'd like to speak with the general manager." Ashley's expression shifted, a flicker of unease crossing her face. Why?" "Because I have some concerns," James said simply. She hesitated, then reached for the phone, murmuring into it. After a moment, she hung up. "Mr. Mitchell will meet you in the office," she said, pointing to a hallway behind the desk. James nodded and walked toward the administrative offices, his pulse steady but his resolve ironclad. Inside, Mitchell sat behind a cluttered desk, his clipboard now replaced by a tablet. He looked mildly annoyed, barely glancing up as James entered. "You needed something?" he asked, his tone dismissive. James shut the door behind him and took a seat, his posture calm, but his voice carrying a quiet authority. "Yes, I think it's time I introduced myself properly." Mitchell leaned back, his eyes narrowing. "And who are you?" "My name is James Caldwell," he said, removing his cap, his gaze locking onto Mitchell's. "I own this hotel." The color drained from Mitchell's face, his tablet slipping slightly in his hands. His mouth opened, but no words came. James let the silence stretch, watching the realization sink in. Then he spoke again, his tone colder now. "I've spent the last day watching how this hotel operates. I've seen guests ignored, employees mistreated, and a complete lack of leadership from you." Mitchell's posture stiffened, his voice faltering. I wasn't aware of any serious issues." James cut him off, his voice sharp. "You weren't aware that your front desk clerk mocked a family in the lobby? I saw it myself." Ashley Turner treated them like they didn't belong because of how they looked. "And you let that happen?" Mitchell's mouth pressed into a thin line, his fingers tapping nervously on the desk. I didn't know about that specific situation." "Then that's another failure," James said, his gaze unrelenting. "Because if you don't know what's happening on your own floor, what exactly are you managing?" Mitchell swallowed hard, his voice rising slightly. "Look, I've been doing my best. No excuses," James said firmly. "I saw you in the kitchen this morning, standing by while your staff struggled. You criticized instead of helping. You've let problems fester instead of solving them." He stood, his decision final. "You're done here, effective immediately." Mitchell's face went pale, his voice barely a whisper. "Wait, Mr. Caldwell." James didn't wait. He turned and walked out, the door clicking shut behind him. Outside, Ashley was still at the front desk, her expression wary as she noticed him approaching. James stopped in front of her, his voice carrying through the lobby. "You're also no longer employed here," he said. Ashley's eyes widened, her voice rising in disbelief. "What? You can't." "You heard me," James said, his tone unwavering. "This is not how my business treats people." Ashley sputtered, looking around for support, but the other staff, Noah, a concierge, a housekeeper, stood frozen, their eyes wide. No one stepped in. James turned to the employees, his voice steady but commanding. "This hotel is changing, starting today." A heavy silence filled the lobby, broken only by the faint ding of an elevator. Ashley grabbed her purse, her face flushed with anger, and stormed out, the glass doors swinging behind her. The remaining staff exchanged glances, some shifting uncomfortably, others watching James with cautious curiosity. Noah, the bellboy, avoided his gaze, his hands fidgeting. James exhaled, the weight of his actions settling in. Firing Ashley and Mitchell was necessary, but it was only the first step. The culture of this hotel hadn't broken overnight, and it wouldn't heal with 2 dismissals. He scanned the room, meeting the eyes of the staff. "I'm not done here," he said. "We're fixing this together." His phone buzzed a notification from Clara, his assistant, with a link to a new X post. "Just saw drama at Horizon. Seattle. Manager and clerk fired. Is this a PR stunt or real change? #TechTrend225. James's jaw tightened. The world was watching, and he had no intention of letting them down. The lobby of the Horizon Seattle was quiet after Ashley Turner's dramatic exit, the glass doors still trembling from her departure. James Caldwell, no longer hiding behind his Thomas Reed disguise, stood at the center of the room, his Mariners cap tucked into his jacket pocket. The remaining staff, Noah Bennett, the young bellboy, a concierge in a crisp uniform, and a housekeeper clutching a cleaning cloth, watched him with a mix of shock and uncertainty. The air was thick with unspoken questions. What happens now? Was this a one-time purge, or the start of something bigger? James's phone buzzed in his pocket, but he ignored it. He knew it was likely Clara, his assistant, forwarding another X post about the firings. The world was watching, but right now, his focus was on the people in front of him. "I meant what I said," James began, his voice steady but warm. "This hotel is changing, and it starts with all of you, but I need your honesty to make it work." He scanned the room, meeting each pair of eyes. Noah shifted uncomfortably, his hands clasped behind his back. The housekeeper glanced at the floor. The concierge nodded slightly, but her expression was guarded. James knew trust wouldn't come easily. A culture like this built on fear and favoritism didn't heal with a single speech. He gestured toward a small conference room off the lobby. "I'd like to meet with a few of you. Not to point fingers, but to listen. Noah, you're with me. And I'd like Sophia Alvarez from housekeeping, Emma Collins from the restaurant, and Marcus Hayes from maintenance. Let's talk." The staff exchanged glances, but no one protested. Noah swallowed hard, following James with hesitant steps. Over the next hour, James arranged for the group to gather, pulling Sophia from her cleaning shift, Emma from the dining area, and Marcus from a repair job in the basement. The conference room was modest fluorescent lights, a long table, and a whiteboard with faded marker stains. James sat at the head, his jacket draped over the chair, his posture open. The others filed in, their faces a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Noah, the youngest, looked out of place among the more seasoned staff, his eyes darting to the exit. "Thanks for coming," James said, leaning forward. "I know today's been intense, but I need to hear from you what's really going on here. No one's getting in trouble for speaking up. You have my word." A heavy silence settled. Sophia, her housekeeping uniform slightly wrinkled, crossed her arms, her dark eyes studying James. Marcus, a broad-shouldered man with graying temples, tapped his fingers on the table. Emma, her apron smudged with coffee stains, stared at her. Hands. Noah kept his gaze fixed on the floor. His shoulders tensed. Sophia broke the silence, her voice low but firm. "Housekeeping's always understaffed. They expect us to turn over rooms in 20 minutes, but it's impossible to do it right. If we fall behind, we get written up. I'm a single mom. I can't afford to lose this job, so I keep quiet." James nodded, jotting a note on a legal pad. "How many staff are you short?" Sophia hesitated. Ben said, "At least 3, maybe 4. We've been asking for help for months, but Mitchell always said the budget wouldn't allow it. James's jaw tightened. He'd approved a generous staffing budget last quarter. Where had the money gone? What else? He asked, keeping his tone neutral. Marcus spoke next, his voice gruff but measured. Maintenance is a mess. We wait weeks for supplies because Mitchell had to approve every order. I've been patching leaks with duct tape because we don't have the right parts. Guests notice, and we take the blame. James wrote down supply delays, his frustration mounting. And the managers didn't listen when you raised this? Marcus snorted. Mitchell didn't care about anything that didn't make him look good on paper. He'd tell us to make do and move on. Emma cleared her throat, her voice quieter. In the restaurant, we're always running out of food during breakfast. The kitchen's understocked, and we don't have a system to track inventory. Guests get upset, especially the conference folks who want vegan or gluten-free options. Mitchell said it was our fault for not managing expectations. James glanced at Noah, who hadn't spoken. The bellboy's hands were clasped so tightly. His knuckles were white. Noah, James said gently, what about you? Noah's eyes flicked up, then away. I don't know. I just try to do my job. James leaned forward, his voice calm but direct. I saw you with Ashley yesterday, when she laughed at that family. You went along with it. Why? Noah's face paled, his voice barely audible. She's been here longer than me. Everyone knew she could make your life hell if you crossed her. I didn't want to be her next target. James studied him, seeing the fear and regret in his eyes. Did you ever report her? Noah let out a tired laugh. To who? Mitchell? He played favorites. If you complained, you got stuck with the worst shifts. Or worse, you'd end up like Sophia, working doubles. Just to stay on his good side. Sophia nodded, her expression hardening. It's true. Ashley and Mitchell ran this place like a clique. If you weren't in, you were out. James sat back, absorbing their words. The picture was clear. Mitchell's leadership had bred a toxic environment where staff were overworked, ignored, or punished for speaking up. Ashley's rudeness wasn't an outlier. It was a symptom of a system that rewarded compliance over care. He glanced at his phone, which had buzzed again. A quick glance showed a message from Clara. X is blowing up. Posts about the firings are trending. Some say it's a stunt. Others want proof of change. Be careful. James set the phone down. The pressure was mounting, but he couldn't rush this. Real change took time. I hear you, James said, meeting each of their eyes. And I'm sorry you've been dealing with this. Starting today, things are different. He flipped to a new page on his pad. Housekeeping gets 3 new hires by next week. Sophia, you'll help me set realistic cleaning times. Marcus, maintenance gets a full budget review, no more duct tape. Emma, we're installing a digital inventory system for the kitchen, and you'll get the supplies you need to meet guest demands, including vegan options for Tech Trend. The group exchanged glances, their skepticism palpable. They'd heard promises before. James pressed on. I'm also bringing in a new general manager. Her name's Lauren Brooks. She's run one of our smaller hotels in Portland for 5 years. Her staff say she's tough but fair, and she listens. I want you to give her a chance. Marcus crossed his arms. And if she's just like Mitchell, she won't be, James said firmly. I'm making that call myself. If she doesn't deliver, she's out. Emma nodded slowly, but Sophia's eyes remained narrowed. You're really going to fix all this? She asked, her voice tinged with doubt. I am, James said. And to prove it, I'm staying here for 2 weeks, working alongside you. Not as a CEO, but as part of the team. You'll see what I'm about. Noah's eyes widened and Marcus raised an eyebrow. Emma's lips twitched, almost a smile. Sophia studied him, then gave a small nod. "We'll see," she said. James stood, signaling the end of the meeting. "One more thing," he said, looking at Noah. "You're young, Noah. You've got a choice. Now follow the worst examples or be better. What's it going to be?" Noah hesitated, then straightened. "I want to be better," he said, his voice firmer. "Good," James said. "Prove it." As the group dispersed, Sophia lingered, her cleaning cloth still in hand. "You're really staying 2 weeks?" she asked. "I said I would," James replied. She considered him, then nodded. "Good, because people are watching." James watched her leave, her words echoing Clara's warning about X. He pulled out his phone, scanning the latest posts. One read, "Horizon Seattle's CEO fired people in person? Either he's serious or it's damage control. Hashtag trend 225. Another, from a guest, was more hopeful. "Heard Horizon shaking things up. Hope it's real." James exhaled. The stakes were high, but he was committed. That afternoon, he began implementing changes. He called corporate to fast-track housekeeping hires and ordered a software demo for the kitchen's inventory system. He also emailed HR about reinstating mandatory diversity training, emphasizing cultural sensitivity, a direct response to complaints about staff bias. Finally, he approved a pilot program to replace plastic bottles with reusable glass ones, aligning with guest demands for sustainability. As evening fell, James walked through the lobby, noticing small shifts. Noah assisted a guest with luggage, his posture more confident. A concierge answered a tech trend attendee's question about local vegan restaurants, her tone professional. The changes were subtle, but they were there. James's phone buzzed. Again a text from Clara. "Lauren Brooks arrives tomorrow." Good luck, he nodded to himself. The real work was just beginning, and he was ready to see it through. James Caldwell stood in the Horizon Seattle's laundry room, folding towels alongside Sophia Alvarez, the hum of industrial dryers filling the air. It was his third day working hands-on with the staff, and his thrift store jacket hung on a hook. Nearby, his CEO polish replaced by sweat and determination. The past 48 hours had been a whirlwind. Firing Ashley Turner and Brian Mitchell had sent shockwaves through the hotel, and his promise to stay for 2 weeks as part of the team had raised eyebrows. Some employees like Sophia watched him with cautious hope. Others, like Marcus Hayes from maintenance, remained skeptical, waiting for proof that this wasn't just a publicity stunt. On X, posters about the firings continued to trend with a mix of praise. Horizon CEO is cleaning house. Hashtag trend 225 and cynicism. Bet it's all for show. Wait a month. James knew he had to deliver, not just for the guests, but for the staff who'd been let down for too long. The laundry room was a microcosm of the hotel's struggles. Sophia pointed to a stack of frayed linens. "These should have been replaced months ago," she said, her voice tinged with frustration. "Mitchell always said it wasn't in the budget." James nodded, wiping his brow. "That budget excuse stops now. I'd approve new linens. They'll be here tomorrow." He'd already greenlit 3 new housekeeping hires, a digital inventory system for the kitchen, and a maintenance budget overhaul. But implementing these changes wasn't as simple as signing a check. The staff's distrust ran deep, and the Tech Trend 2025 conference, now in full swing, meant the hotel was packed with demanding VIPs whose expectations smart rooms, personalized service, eco-friendly amenities tested every department. That morning, James had faced his first major challenge. A tech executive, identifiable by her Tech Trend badge and sharp blazer, had stormed into the lobby, her voice carrying, "My room has no USB-C chargers, and your app didn't sync my coffee preference from my last stay. This is unacceptable for a conference hotel." James, stationed nearby as Thomas Reed, to avoid attention, stepped in before the new concierge. could fumble. "I'm so sorry, ma'am," he said, his tone calm but professional. "Let's move you to a suite with full smart features on us. I'll personally ensure your coffee order is saved." The executive softened, surprised by the swift resolution. "Fine. But you should know I posted about this on X. People are watching." James nodded, his stomach tightening. "We're making changes. You'll see." As she walked away, he overheard her typing furiously on her phone, likely updating her post. He checked X later. "Horizon Seattle comped my room after a mix-up. Better, but they've got work to do." #TechTrend225. It wasn't glowing, but it was progress. Back in the laundry room, Sophia folded a towel with practiced precision. "You handled that guest well," she said, glancing at him. "But not every problem's that easy. Some of the staff think you'll leave and nothing will stick." "I know," James said. "That's why I'm here, getting my hands dirty." "Trust takes time." Sophia's lips twitched, almost a smile. "We'll see." Later, James joined the kitchen team during the breakfast rush, where Emma Collins was overseeing a restocked buffet. The new digital inventory system, a cloud-based tool synced to the Horizon app, had arrived that morning, and Emma was testing it, logging supplies on a tablet. "This helps," she admitted, her apron cleaner than the day before. "But we're still short on vegan options. Conference guests keep asking." James made a note. "I'll order more plant-based stock today. Anything else?" Emma hesitated, then said, "The staff need training. Not just on food, but on how to talk to guests like those tech people. They expect us to know their names, their diets, everything." She was right. Personalization was the new standard, and Horizon was behind. James added staff training to his list, envisioning workshops on cultural sensitivity and guest engagement, critical for a diverse clientele like Tech Trends. He'd also noticed a housekeeping report mentioning plastic water bottles still in rooms, despite his order to switch to glass. The supplier delay wasn't the staff's fault, but it was another hurdle. Midday, James shadowed Marcus in the basement, where a leaky pipe had been fixed with tape. Marcus, his skepticism still evident, gestured to the makeshift repair. "This is what I've been dealing with. Mitchell wouldn't approve new pipes, so we limp along." James crouched, inspecting the leak. "New pipes are ordered, and I'm reviewing every maintenance request personally. What else do you need?" Marcus raised an eyebrow, testing him. "A real budget, and someone to listen when we say something's broken." "You've got both," James said. "Show me the worst issues, and we'll prioritize them." Marcus grunted, but led James to a flickering hallway light and a stuck elevator door, small but noticeable flaws that frustrated guests. As they worked, Marcus opened up slightly. "You're not what I expected," he admitted. "Thought you'd be another suit who doesn't get it." "I'm here to get it," James said, tightening a bulb. "But I need you to meet me halfway." By afternoon, James noticed subtle shifts. Noah, the bellboy, assisted a guest in a wheelchair, his tone warm as he offered directions to an accessible entrance. It was a far cry from the nervous kid who'd laughed with Ashley. When Noah caught James watching, he gave a small nod, his posture straighter. James nodded back, a spark of pride igniting. Noah was trying, and it showed. Sophia, too, stepped up. During a housekeeping break, she approached James with a handwritten list. "These are ways we can clean faster without cutting corners," she said. "Better carts, more eco-friendly supplies. Guests notice when we use cheap stuff." James scanned her suggestions, impressed. "These are good. Let's meet with the new manager tomorrow to make them happen." The new manager, Lauren Brooks, arrived that evening, her presence a quiet force. A woman in her early 40s, with a sharp gaze and a reputation for fairness, she'd turned a struggling Portland hotel into a guest favorite. James briefed her in. The administrative office, handing her a tablet with his notes. "The staff are willing, but bruised," he said. "They need someone who listens and follows through." Lauren nodded, her voice calm but resolute. "I've seen the X-posts. People want proof. This isn't a stunt. I'm here to make it real." "Good," James said. "Start with Sophia's ideas and Emma's kitchen needs. And enforce the diversity training." Mitchell let it slide. Lauren's eyes narrowed. "Not on my watch. I've already scheduled sessions for next week." As they spoke, James's phone buzzed with a notification from Clara. A local news outlet had picked up the story, running a headline: "Horizon Seattle's CEO goes undercover, fires manager in bold move." The article quoted an anonymous employee, likely Sophia, saying, "He's actually listening, but we're waiting to see if it lasts." James showed Lauren, who smiled faintly. "They're right to be cautious. I'll earn their trust." That night, James walked the lobby, observing. The self-check-in kiosk, repaired after days of being offline, hummed as a Tech Trend guest used it, praising its ease on X. Horizon Seattle's kiosk is a game-changer. Finally catching up. #TagTrend 225. Double quotes. Noah helped a family with luggage, asking about their day with genuine interest. Emma's buffet ran smoothly, with vegan pastries now available. Even Marcus, gruff as ever, reported fixing the elevator door. But challenges remained. A housekeeper whispered to Sophia that some staff feared Lauren would be another Mitchell. A Tech Trend VIP complained about slow Wi-Fi, a reminder that the hotel's tech upgrades were still in progress. And on X, a skeptic posted, "Horizons. Changes sound nice, but let's see if they stick post-conference." James returned to his temporary office, a cluttered room behind the administrative hallway, and reviewed his notes. The hotel was improving, but trust was fragile, and the conference's spotlight meant every floor was magnified. He emailed corporate to expedite glass bottle delivery and finalize the diversity training curriculum, emphasizing real-world scenarios, like Ashley's bias. He also called the maintenance supplier, ensuring pipes and lights would arrive by week's end. As he stepped into the lobby one last time, Noah approached, his voice hesitant but clear. "Mr. Caldwell, I helped a guest. Today a guy in a wheelchair. He said it was the first time anyone here asked what he needed. I just wanted you to know." James smiled, clapping Noah's shoulder. "That's what this place is about, Noah. Keep it up." Noah nodded, a spark of confidence in his eyes. James watched him return to his post, the lobby bustling with guests. The air felt lighter, but the work wasn't done. Lauren's leadership, the staff's willingness, and his own commitment would determine if Horizon Seattle could truly change. With 1 week left, James knew the real test was still ahead. James Caldwell stood in the Horizon Seattle's lobby on his final day, the glass doors gleaming under the morning sun. 2 weeks had passed since he'd walked in as Thomas Reed, a disguised everyman uncovering the rot in his hotel. Now, his thrift store jacket was gone, replaced by a tailored blazer, his CEO presence undeniable. The lobby buzzed with Tech Trend 2025 guest tech executives tapping on laptops, families snapping photos by the eco-friendly water station with glass bottles, a stark contrast to the plastic ones he'd found on day one. The self-check-in kiosk hummed smoothly, and Noah Bennett, the once hesitant bellboy, assisted a guest with a warm smile, asking about their conference schedule. James's chest swelled with quiet pride, but he knew the journey wasn't over. Lauren Brooks, the new general manager, had settled in with a steady hand. Her first week had been a test. Some staff, like Marcus Hayes, doubted she'd differ from Brian Mitchell, but her actions spoke louder than promises. She'd approved Sofia Alvarez's housekeeping suggestions, streamlining carts and switching to biodegradable cleaners earning nods from eco-conscious tech trend attendees. She'd also enforced diversity training, using real-world scenarios, like Ashley Turner's bias to teach cultural sensitivity. Emma Collins's kitchen now ran like clockwork. The digital inventory system, ensuring vegan pastries and gluten-free options, never ran dry. Marcus's maintenance team had new pipes, lights, and a budget that didn't force duct tape fixes. The hotel wasn't perfect, Wi-Fi upgrades lagged, and a few staff still whispered doubts, but the air felt lighter. The culture shifting. James walked the halls, noting changes. The carpets, once stained, were spotless, thanks to Sophia's new cleaning protocols. A tech trend VIP, the same executive who'd complained about USB-C chargers, approached him, her badge glinting. "Mr. Caldwell, I saw your speech at the conference," she said, referencing his last-minute invite to discuss Horizon's tech-driven service upgrades, like AI-powered guest preference tracking. "The suite was great, and my coffee order was spot on. I updated my ex-post, gave you 4 stars. James smiled, shaking her hand. "We're aiming for 5. Let us know how we get there." Her post, now viral with 10,000 likes, read, "Horizon Seattle turned it around. Smart rooms. Eco-friendly vibe. Staff actually care. #TechTrend225. It countered the earlier TikTok video of Ashley's smirk, which had faded from X's trending lists. A local news outlet ran a follow-up. Horizon Seattle's undercover CEO sparks real change. Quoting Sophia anonymously, "He worked with us, not above us." Not every ex-user was convinced. Some called it a PR stunt, but the tide was turning. In the administrative office, James met Lauren for a final debrief. Her desk, unlike Mitchell's cluttered chaos, was organized, a tablet displaying real-time guest feedback. "The staff are coming around," she said, her voice calm but confident. "Sophia's training to be a housekeeping supervisor. Noah's assisting at the front desk. He's got potential. Emma's kitchen is a model for other properties. Marcus is grumbling less, which is progress." James nodded, handing her a corporate memo. "I'm launching a global training program for Horizon diversity, personalization, sustainability. You'll lead the pilot here. And I want staff input, starting with Sophia's team." Lauren's eyes lit up. "That's the right move. This place is special because of them." James's phone buzzed a text from Clara. "Board's impressed. They want a report on scaling your approach." He'd spent years relying on data, but these 2 weeks taught him numbers didn't capture heart. He'd been too distant, letting managers like Mitchell erode his vision. Now, he'd stay closer, visiting properties unannounced, ensuring every guest felt valued, from tech moguls to families like the Johnsons. As he packed his bag, Noah approached, his bellboy uniform crisp. "Mr. Caldwell, I got a thank you note from that wheelchair guest. Said I made his stay." His voice held a new confidence. James clapped his shoulder. "That's Horizon, Noah. You're part of it now." Sophia joined them, her supervisor badge pinned proudly. "We're holding you to those glass bottles," she teased, her skepticism replaced by trust. "You should," James said, grinning. "I'll check in." He stepped outside, the Seattle skyline sharp against the sky. The hotel wasn't fixed overnight. An X would keep watching, but the foundation was stronger. Lauren's leadership, Noah's growth, Sophia's initiative, they'd carry the change forward. James boarded his flight to New York, drafting a company-wide email. Horizon's promise is simple. Every guest belongs. Let's live it. This story of James Caldwell and Horizon Seattle is more than a tale of corporate reform. It's a testament to the power of empathy, accountability, and human connection. James's journey underscores a universal truth. Leadership isn't about titles or reports. It's about listening, acting, and inspiring others to rise. By stepping into his staff's shoes, He uncovered not just operational flaws, but the human toll of neglect, Sophia's exhaustion, Noah's fear, Emma's frustration. His choice to work alongside them, not above them, rebuilt trust, showing that change begins with genuine care. The story also highlights the ripple effect of respect. Ashley's bias and Mitchell's indifference alienated guests, while Noah's kindness to a wheelchair user and Sophia's eco-friendly ideas created moments of belonging. In 2025, as society grapples with division evident in X's polarized posts, this narrative reminds us that inclusivity isn't a policy, it's a daily choice. James's commitment to diversity training and sustainability reflects a broader call to align actions with values, ensuring no one feels less than. For readers, the lesson is clear. Change is possible, but it demands courage and persistence. Whether you're a CEO or a bellboy, you have the power to challenge toxic cultures and uplift others. James's story challenges us to ask, how do we make people feel valued in our own spaces? It's a question worth carrying forward in workplaces, communities, and beyond that. If this story moved you, subscribe to Legacy Stories on YouTube or follow us on X for more tales of transformation and triumph. From underdog victories to unsung heroes, we share narratives that inspire and ignite change. Join our community, hit that subscribe button, and let's keep the stories alive. What's the next legacy you want to see?